Over the last few days, I have posted a couple of videos. One obviously had to do with some of the bigger issues. The other one had to do with fixing a hole in some wallboard, which was not particularly politically endearing or engaging. I've also suggested in one of the recent videos that I would begin to establish an interactive email collection for many of you who have followed me or engaged me or commented with me over the past couple years. I've included 20 or 30 people who were already involved and have added now 50 or 60 or 70 of you that have added your names to the list. Initially, I suggested that we would have maybe 5 different areas, and eventually it may come to that. As it currently exists, most of you want most of the information. Some of you want only 1 or 2 areas, and what I'm going to suggest that I'm going to do is send things out, but indicate what they cover. And if you're not interested in building a construction or spiritual issues or political stuff or ancient history, just don't read it. Throw it away. So that's the easiest thing, and that will allow me to be able, at least initially, to send out to all of you. Over the next week or two, I will look into trying to get a blog site of some kind or other set up so that we can interact, and that many of you who have incredibly valuable input can provide them. So over, I think a couple of days ago, I had somebody who said to me on one of the comments below my video, well, trust the plan. Remember with Trump to trust the plan. And I made a rather quick, excuse my itchy nose, I made a rather quick response to him, which I have revised a couple times with the benefit of a guy named Smith who lives in Florida, and he and I have exchanged this back and forth a couple times, and I have even added to it since. So let me share with you, a couple years ago at the outset of the Trump administration, I gave my initial assessment of his potential and shared that with many of you in a video where I compared him to other presidents. And my initial assessment of his potential, contrasted to those modern presidents, was to look at him in reference to them as modern presidents and say the following. Would he be ineffective like Carter and Ford, devious and manipulative like Nixon and LBJ, New World Order evil like George H.W. Bush, a sometimes big picture champion like Reagan, which is how I see him, not necessarily a detail guy, or a deep state operative like blue dress Clinton, shrubby Bush, and Hussein Obama, none of whom have done anything for us. That's 20 years now. Certainly most of us agree. I'm just going to kind of read this and paraphrase it and then interject from time to time because I do have an agenda. So certainly most of us agree that no matter where Trump ends up, he has not yet plummeted us into a devastating nuclear World War III or chaotic Marxist socialism as evil Hillary would most certainly have done. Let's start from there. Most of you say in lots of settings, well, if you're going to be critical of Trump, would you prefer him to Hillary? And the answer is no, still not. No, there's no way. I can't imagine anybody that I would prefer Hillary over someone else. Not anybody. So let's leave it at that. At the very least, the process of constitutional destruction slowed with Trump. I will give him that. So Trump champions the great economy that he has helped to guide and manage. But behind the scenes, we see quantitative easing and other Federal Reserve games another term for short-term, desperate economic propping and financial manipulation, which will not end well. And among other things, it is going to spur inflation if it does not cause the gradual deck of cards collapse entirely. It is a house of cards. We know that the entire monetary system and that the dollar itself is at increased risk, and the benefits that Trump is getting may or may not have anything to do with him, but there are certainly things going on beyond Trump which are detrimental to us and which may be only temporarily propping up the economy. Frequently, I get people posting, emailing, and commenting to me that President Trump is on his way to becoming a great president. Among other things, they remind me to, quote, trust the plan. If you see yourself among we the people, I'll use that quote positively, as I do, those of us intellectually honest citizens who expect truth from government, adherence to the Constitution, especially the Bill of Rights, let's take a look at Trump in that context now to see what he looks like in his fourth year. For starters, I submit that all of us oppose regime change wars all over the world. They don't benefit us. We seek a balanced budget, and we demand the elimination of the Federal Reserve. All of those are necessary for us to recover our democracy. On those and other critical issues, then, how does Trump stack up? First, I would submit that there's no such thing as political trust. Trusting the plan is an oxymoronic, idiotic kind of process for anybody on either side of this. Trusting is not something we the people should be doing with any of our political leaders. And if you take a look at 1,000 comments by famous people, former presidents and others, trusting a government entity is antithetical to our democratic Republican political process. In whom are we to trust? Instead, watch what they do and see if any presidential action resembles his own rhetoric. It only takes a cursory review to demonstrate that our last many presidents have not. Let's apply that accountability action survey to Trump. Second, Trump is absolutely surrounded by deep staters, New World Order, neocons, and Zionist banksters, and it was unsettling to me from the outset, despite my hopeful quest for goodness to find in him. I ask you to focus at the very top of his regime with Pence, Pompeo, Barr, Mnuchin, Wray, and Wilbur Ross, his former bank lender and current commerce secretary. There are no good guys. And what is more, Trump has failed to remove dozens of deep staters who may have openly and surreptitiously undermined his apparent and oft-stated agenda. Why, we might ask? Why are they still there? Dozens of them in the Department of Justice, in the Secretary of State's office, in the internal administration, in the National Security Advisor and others, except for Bolton and Labor Secretary Acosta, who got caught with his pants all the way down to his ankles. He has fired no one who failed us. Neither has he hired anyone who has helped us. Third, Trump promised to end the absolutely incomprehensible, preemptive, and never-ending wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, and to wind us out of Syria. Despite numerous declarations to the contrary, he has immediately reversed himself. He has not even reduced the conflicts. To the contrary, we have a bigger military budget. We have more troops overseas than we have had in decades, and he has dropped more bombs per day than Shrubby Bush and Hussein Obama combined. This record violates every war-related promise he made to us when running for president. Fourth, Trump has further fomented Middle East conflict by sending billions more to Israel, moving our embassy to Jerusalem, merging many military and intelligence activities with them, handing them the Golan Heights and all of its oil to benefit Genie Energy, including investors Jared Kushner, Dick Cheney, Rupert Murdoch, and former CIA Director James Woolsey. Making Israel greater does not make America great again. Fifth, 5G, chemtrails, and vaccines are being madly pushed upon us and are endorsed by Trump, even though there is mounting evidence that each of them severely harms us. Of course, with the chemtrails, they just ignore that it's there, even though there are idiots that presume to tell us that they are now under Trump, we're getting good chemtrails. Yeah, that's a good one. I'd like to just have fresh air. How about it? Let's try it. Sixth, Trump is politically and financially dirty in Eastern Europe, but not as the impeaching Democrats say he is. Biden and the Dems are even dirtier, but no one will uncover the real Russian and Ukrainian corruption because it would take both sides down. Let's go through Uranium One. Let's go through arms trading and sales and trafficking. Let's go through all kinds of corruption with Biden and Kerry's stepkid and Pelosi and others that are all feeding at the trough, and Jared Kushner is no different from the rest of them. He's right in the middle of it. Seventh, not only are late-term fetuses being aborted, but multiple states now allow post-birth termination. In response, Trump has only slightly reduced Planned Parent funding. His rhetoric is empty. No legislation has been introduced by his administration or by the Republicans in Congress to stem the ongoing genocide of the innocent. No matter how you feel about Roe v. Wade, whether you feel that it should be repealed or that it is a legitimate protection for the rights of women, this goes way, way beyond it, and it is incomprehensible to me that Trump will sit and do nothing about it. Eighth, the alleged hundreds of thousands of sealed indictments have not, I can't keep a straight face on this one, have not been opened. Ask Q about that. Nor has anyone important been indicted. To the contrary, Trump's Attorney General, William Barr, the George H.W. Bush deep stater, the CIA operative, the dark guy who has done hundreds of things to hide stuff under the rug, is now presiding over the DOJ and has allowed the preposterous disappearance, however you see it has occurred, of Jeffrey Epstein from federal prison, thus destroying a full investigation of the politically corrupt global pedophilic evil ones. If Trump is all about stamping out international pedophilic trafficking, ask yourself why he appointed Alexander Acosta to be his labor secretary and why he has not demanded that William Barr go after Ghislaine Maxwell and all of the pilots and butlers and chauffeurs and aides that Jeffrey Epstein used for a dozen years to traffic children. Why has he not fully investigated his good buddy, what's his name, Alan Dershowitz, that showed up at the executive order at the White House, along with Mr. Kraft, the owner of the, the New England Patriots, who's also been charged with fumbling around in illegal activities in Florida. Why are these people showing up in the Trump administration? And you can add Roger Stone onto that, along with Dershowitz and Kraft and others. All right, number 9. Despite obvious political traction provided him by WikiLeaks during election 2016, Trump has ignored the civil rights, freedom of speech, and freedom of press protections which should be afforded to Julian Assange. His silence and inaction concerning Assange are despicable. Number 10. Personal tax breaks for average taxpayers provided by the tax break Trump promoted and signed will disappear in a matter of 2 years, but the huge, ongoing, and indefinite benefits to corporations and billionaires will remain in place. We got a little niblet, we got a little promotion, but if you take a look at the tax rates and charges, they are going to disappear by 2022 or so. Number 11, the new trade agreement with Canada and Mexico includes New World Order and UN Agenda 21 elements, thus further compromising our sovereignty. Trump has sold us out, just as Clinton did with NAFTA. Millions of great-paying manufacturing jobs have been lost forever, and it is destroying our middle class. Number 12, none of the big players in 2016 government election in FISA fraud, Hillary Clinton, Mueller, Strzok, Orr, Rosenstein, Comey, etc., have been seriously investigated, nor will William Barr, Mueller's longtime close personal friend and protector of the deep state, ever go after any of them. Number 13. Despite his election promise to the contrary, Trump withheld JFK documents for another 3 years to hide the fact that our government participated in his murder. One of the most important things that has happened in this country in the modern era, since most of us have been born. The most important and first deep, evil, devious action of our federal government, the CIA, the Department of Justice, the FBI, LBJ, and many others that killed our president, whether you liked him or not then and whether you like him or not now, destroyed the fabric of the presidency and the accountability of the government to the president and to us. He also promised that he would know, that we would know who really committed 9/11, but has since taken up the ridiculous government conspiracy Arab box cutter meme. Since his election, Trump has selectively forgotten about his initial assertion years ago that bombs were used to take down the World Trade Center. Number 14, Google, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube have all banned, shadow banned, and suppressed free speech, sometimes even infringing on Trump himself, yet he has not offered a single solution. Obvious antitrust laws should be applied to break them up, and public access measures should be applied to allow all of us to speak freely in these manipulated hosting systems. They should be treated like utilities, they should be treated like networks, and there should be equal and open access given to us all. What is more, specific legislation permitting civil damages for infringement of free speech, assembly, and free press should be passed against the globalist social media spectrum. These are fundamental and vital free speech matters which Trump ignores and does absolutely nothing about. And whether you like it or not, when he's gone, it's going to get worse. Number 15, QAnon, Area 17 Ground Zero, Serial Brain 2, which I call cereal as in Kellogg's Brine 2, and others like them act like PSYOP operations and should not be quoted, much less relied upon by trusting citizens. And there are many more, and there are clingers to the Q meme that things are actually good and something is actually happening. The last of which somebody got a hold of me, one of my contributors, and said, well, watch, something's going to happen in December. And I bet him that they wouldn't. And nothing happened in December. Well, also, nothing happened last August. Nothing happened last September. Nothing happened last July. Nothing happened last December. Nothing is going to happen that relates to Q. Yes, Q can show you a picture of a pen on a desk somewhere, can show you a picture out from Air Force One allegedly looking at some island off of Korea. Q can claim to provide posts wherever wherever it's posting now that match up with Trump's Twitters. And I would say to you that if you want to treat those as proofs that Trump and Q are on the same page, then I would say to you, you should think about whether they're on the same page for good, which is what is always promoted. That whoever Q is has access to Trump and he is oblivious of it, which is also possible, or that Trump and Q are in full collaboration and it's not good for us. Those are all three possibilities. Take them into account. If you want to use the proofs, think about the spectrum of which they may serve as proof before you do anything else. None of the anticipated booms have occurred. Boom, boom, boom. And this is the mother of all bombs. Yeah, right. Where is that mother of all bombs? I want to see the mother or any of her children, okay? These QAnon cryptic messages have only had value to the extent that they generated investigation into otherwise obscured corruption, to which I agree. I think some of those obvious things that have been pointed out by Q have been very helpful to us, and for months I used them until I got to the place where I realized that I was actually facilitating the undermining of us as free citizens, looking objectively at what our government is doing to us and what is going on behind Trump, the impeachment, the Dems, and everybody else that is ripping the fabric of our constitutional republic under tow. All right, number 16, and this is an important one, and I have spent time on this. The southern border wall has only been cosmetically added to, and none of the inherent problems with our southern border, have been addressed. Immigrants are still flowing in and are immediately given vastly better benefits than are provided to our veterans and to our own Social Security earned recipients. Sanctuary cities, counties, and states still exist and get their full federal support despite clear criminal enablement violations. And nothing has been done. Soon illegals will be voting with their new driver's licenses. Think about that. And there are many of the Democrats that say that they should have the right to vote, which is absolute insanity and unconstitutional. 17th, despite all the hype of the 2016 and 2018 elections, voting security and honest, accountable elections have not been addressed to the slightest degree. 0 of the 2018 voting fraud violations have been charged, much less prosecuted. Try Florida, try West Texas, try Georgia, try Montana, try Arizona. I mean, California is, where would you start in California? And some of the other states that have millions of dead people still on the rolls in total, and others voting, illegals voting, people allowed to sign up. I saw videos of people handed voting access registrations at university campuses. Hell, just go ahead and sign up. Great work. No, they should be, the people who handed them out should be prosecuted, and the people that turned them in should be prosecuted. Number 18th, and this is important, Trump banned bump stocks by an executive order, no less, and has often expressed his support of red flag laws in which they take the guns first and force us as citizens to prove that we should get them back. A multiple violation of the Bill of Rights and our fundamental constitutional protections. While he pays lip service to the Second Amendment, these actions are antithetical to any expression of the right to keep and bear arms. And I will say to you, what is more than that? All of this expression about, well, gee, people only need to have a hunting rifle. Well, that's not what the Constitution provides, that I can go out and shoot a rabbit. That's not it. It's to protect me, not just from people that might do a mass shooting in Walmart, but to protect me from the government tyranny that our founding fathers knew would come again. And it is coming again. And the craziness of the bogus banners and all the rest of this to try to get us to somehow give up our weapons is antithetical to constitutional protections. I'm not a big gun lover at all. I don't even like them. I don't like them around. They make me nervous. It's like somebody having a sharp pointed object next to my eye. I hate it. But if it were not for the Second Amendment, if it were not for our founding fathers saying to us, we are here to protect you and we are going to make a document that may do that, if it were not for the Second Amendment, there would be no constitutional United States of America, period, at all. Whatever you think about how it exists now. So tell me, Trump supporters, I know I'm going to get thumbs down on this, a whole bunch of them. And that's just the way it is. And there'll probably be some comments about what a terrible person I am. Oh well, I have to tell the truth, right? Yes, would I have more subscribers if I didn't? Sure. What benefit would that serve? So tell me, Trump supporter, where do you see the goodness of Trump shining through? And please, skip the keep your friends close and your enemies closer. The hundreds of years of swamp, and Trump needs a second term to even begin draining it. That's a good one. And the ridiculous meme, trust the plan. If there is a plan, as George Carlin has told us, it's a big club and you ain't in it. Except to be further enslaved, we are not part of the plan. So, if you like what I had to share, give a thumbs up. Oh, finally, what can we do about it? This is important. If we assert these elements and rights, and we insist that our congressional candidates address them and respond to them, if we demand that Trump further express and follow through on and attempt to enforce any of these, take your pick. I gave you 18 of them. Take your pick. And there are bunches internal to them. If we insist as citizens, as voters, that we will not vote for Trump or anybody else until they address these things, if we demand at public hearings with congressional candidates and others that they respond to these issues, if we loudly respond, there may be some movement. And what is more than that, until such time as we the people recognize that all of these things are antithetical, are fundamentally against us as citizens, and that we must insist that they be rolled back, not just stopped, not slowed, not somehow hesitated, not allowed to creep in behind us, but removed and rolled back, Not until we have rolled these back and have forced ourselves as citizens back into the process with accountable elections, with responsible voting, with a full record of activities, with knowing what's going on, with having an open and somewhat minimally honest press, mainstream media, without having continued and guaranteed ongoing access of our Bill of Rights with the social media. Until those things happen, folks, until we are guaranteed the protection of our Second Amendment no matter what, until those things, people stop pounding away at us for those things, we are at risk and we will go down. Now, let me give you one more thing about this Second Amendment business. People talk about, we get on defense about Second Amendment. Well, maybe bump stocks are okay. Maybe we could get rid of those. Maybe we shouldn't have magazines that have 40 shells in them. Maybe we should not permit any of this kind of stuff and that kind of stuff. I'm going to say to you, 200 odd years ago, when our founding fathers protected the Second Amendment or our gun rights with those, none of them said, well, the government gets good weapons and you get crappy ones. None of them said that you can't have state-of-the-art weapons that match the government. None of them said that. The truth of the matter is that we, the citizens, should have bazookas and sidearm Stinger missiles and anti-tank guns and the rest of that. And that sounds absolutely nuts. But if you think about what our government has done with the new Stryker weapons, with the new vehicles that have directed energy weapons, that have lasers, that have weapons that can burn your skin, that can put words inside, voices inside your head, and much more. Until you recognize that they can do so surreptitiously with helicopters and otherwise, until you recognize that they have federalized the police forces in many cases and have given weapons to these local police forces which are not necessary. They've done all kinds of urban defense planning for any kind of uprising or outcropping of political freedom that might be expressed. They're ready to take us down, and until we have the right to match them or we disarm them from the preemptive strike that they will take upon us as citizens, we are multiply vulnerable. Now, I get stuff that, and I don't know what credence to give it, that there are UN forces, that there are Russian forces, that there are embedded elements, that there are Chinese in the country. I have no way to know any of that, and I cannot verify it. But if there are, they should be exposed and removed. There is no right to have military forces or paramilitary forces in this country that could be used against the citizenry. Nothing. And the United Nations, those blue helmets, should never show up on American soil, ever. We should be armed to the teeth, and we should be matching the armament of our government, because I don't trust it. As much as I fear people wandering around with advanced weapons in the citizenry, I fear the government more. So, give a thumbs up if you like it. Give a thumbs down if you don't. Add me to the subscription if you haven't already. And feel free to engage me by getting a hold of me. That is drphrog at seethingfrog.com, and letting me know if you're interested in the construction stuff, history, politics, ancient history, spiritual matters that would have to do with our interactions, and whether or not you support setting up a blog spot so that we could engage on multiple areas in those regards. Thanks so much for watching.